Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? I feel like I'm doubling myself. Hold on one second. Uh, okay. So we are actually here today because of our sister Kinga, and this conversation is going to be amazing. She is a business leader who basically scaled. Okay, this is an experienced leader who scaled her organization from where they need to be, right? And going up the ladder in terms of leadership. But really, her focus is business helping them to grow and scale. Most of the time, businesses will grow, but how do you scale as a business owner? How do you move forward with the decisions that you do that could affect all your employees, right? But you're like, okay, well, we just need to go and double our productivity. We just need to go and double our sales team. We just need to go and double whatever that needs to be done. But most organizations, right, when they need to scale, there are always things within your strategy and business operations that you leave behind. And those that you got left behind are literally the important part of your business, which is your people, right? So you forget your people, and they're the one who's actually making you the money. So this is where my sister Kinga comes in for you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do we master, scalable leadership? These are proven strategies for us for building a strong and united community because she already has done it. It's not a theory, it's not something she just put together yesterday and you're like, yeah, I'm going to talk about this. No, this is something that she has done in her past and she wants to help everybody. So that's where we're at. But before we go talk to Kinga, I'm going to talk to you guys about the author's call. And this is to sign up to start on August 1st. This is Rebel with a Cause. And you're basically asking, CJ, what is that? It seems so gimmicky and marketing and all this. Has nothing to do with that. Everything that I do, I always think about community and how we as a community can scale our individuality as a group. Okay, let me repeat that. Scale our individuality, but doing it as a group. Can you do your book on your own? Of course you can. It's a choice. Can you do publishing on your own? Of course you can. Everything is possible. You already have the tools to do all of this. You don't need necessarily people to do it for you if you have the time, the resources to do all of the research that you need. But you and I know in reality that you have to hustle to feed yourself, to feed your family, to do everything. But you have a passion for helping others. But how do you scale yourself as an individual to go from solo, spending time on social media, posting, responding, and you're like, I'm not getting any clients? Why not partner up with us when we also have a proven strategies to scale your business, right? So that's why I love this conversation, because when I thought about, doing this with Kinga, I was thinking, hey, we do that already in a capacity of from individual to a community. And that's why I love this conversation. But Rebel with a Cause is literally thinking about yourself. If you challenge the status quo, why do you need to be doing this? Why do you need to put up with negative people? Oh, because I need the money. Are you sure you can't get the money somewhere else where you're actually celebrated, not tolerated? Of course you can. But you're stuck in your head that you can't do better. Just like in a bad relationship, right? People treat you really bad, friends treat you really bad, but because you hang on to that value that you think, your perception becomes your reality, that you think this is the only thing I can do right now and this is better for me. Not really. If you just stop thinking about just for you and think about what could be the possibilities, and you challenge yourself saying, you know what, I'm gonna leave this bad friendship, I'm gonna leave this bad relationship, I'm gonna leave this work, this toxic, right? So you leave. Think about lemon. When you squeeze a lemon, you get lemon juice. If you squeeze an apple, you get apple juice. If you squeeze a negative person, you get toxicity. That's what you're gonna get. If you squeeze a positive person, you're going to get positivity. That's all I'm saying. It's simple, but it's not simple, right? When it comes to human emotion. So if you embrace innovations, creativity, this is for you. We're going to actually only ask a chapter, 1,500 to 3,000 words, about how you challenged the status quo and how did you innovate. And I love for you to be blasted in our authors club. So anytime that you write with us, you automatically become an authors club member of Level Up Academy. So thank you for that. I also wanted to tell you that because we love our community, we actually these two, and Rashida, I have to put her pictures in here, but they won every single Sunday at 7 p.m. You have the possibility to actually win $500, which is your entrance to Rebel with a Cause, right? So we're giving a freebie on anthology, and all you have to do, there's no catch, all you have to do literally is show up in our 7 p.m. and comment as much as you can or ask us questions, because the algorithm for our raffle picks it up. That's all it is, right? And so that's why we love helping our community. And one last thing before I bring Kinga, we are looking for an HOB ambassadors for basically making sure that you are at least a 3 month member in there, able to introduce people to us, show up for engagement. Social media is all about engagement, and that not just like randomly comment good job, great work, like that's really not really fully engaged. That's just being present. That's not really present engagement, right? So be a champion for others. We're all about community, and in order for you to feel that belongingness, you have to really engage with people at some point in better capacity. On the 27th, I'll have an open coffee chat. I see you people, the ones who are complaining on my DMs. I can't talk to you until what? When? What? October? So I'm opening it up for you guys to have a coffee chat, just to be there for networking, right? Just saying hello. There is no agenda. There's no pitch lapping. Just hello. Want to get to know who you are and go from there. Okay, so are you guys ready? I'm gonna bring my sister from another Mr. Kinga. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready, sister. All right, let's bring her up. How are you?
Hi. Still got my thumbs up, so I'm waiting. I'm doing fantastic. I am so excited. I was texting you before the show already. I'm so excited. Thank you so
I
much for
know.
having me
I had to
here.
switch computers because that computer just went crazy on me. So now I'm on my other laptop. Thank goodness that I have access to this other laptop. But tell us a little bit about Kinga's relationship with businesses and how you can help people, right, scale business leaders to the next level.
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, well, before we get into that, I do want to talk about how we met for a really quick second. So the folks that are here don't necessarily know our story. And for me, when we met, there was this instant connection. I felt that you were just this really positive light around these creative, innovative, community building. Hey, let's go. Let's grab this torch of there are things that we can do and I want to go do it. And that's always been my spirit, right? So if I see something in somebody that is, we could have some common ground and we want to accomplish things and we want to be creative, then we can do that. And to have that kind of collective, let's take whatever resources we have together and go for it, that's who I want to partner with. And so through the anthology that I did participate in, Beyond Boundaries with you, I didn't know anything about writing a book. I had been trying that journey for a really long time. And you led me through that process, took my hand. You took me right through that process. Now I'm an international bestseller in 5 countries, signing in Barnes and Noble. So that to me is what business is all about. So kind of now rewinding to answer your question, I had been in the software industry for 20 years or longer, but and I had always worked in corporate in software. And this is when, for many of you that might not be familiar with some of the software industry terms, there was something called waterfall. And what we did at that time when we were doing software development, very complex pieces of code. So we would have, maybe 70 software engineers working on the same piece of code. And it's difficult when you have a lot of people that don't necessarily want to communicate on a daily basis. There are a lot of moving parts and pieces. And how do they problem solve together around these common goals? So we would take this very massive, large requirement and hand it off and have these kind of phased approaches of solving problems. And what we noticed was there was this lack of wanting to be aligned around what the company was actually trying to solve. And so for me, as somebody who just naturally wanted people to have a life of ease and who just wanted to solve problems and to kind of go back to what you and I connected over, which is, hey, we just have a group of people here and we're trying to solve some problems for clients, right? And like we're trying to stay employed. So I want this company to be successful. Why aren't we just trying to figure out what is the business problem that we're trying to solve? And how do we get together and just solve that problem? And so luckily, I was one of the first people that I had ever heard of that received Agile training. And now we're hearing Agile thrown around quite a bit. But at the time, I was very fortunate to be with a company that was going through rapid change. And they were going public. There was just a lot of movement happening. I was learning Agile. I got to work on the first full product development cycle through an Agile development cycle as a project manager. And so what that meant for me was I was coaching Agile teams. I was these software engineering teams to learn how to collaborate. And to me, I happened to be kind of right place, right time through all of these massive, complex situations where people were trying to get around common goals. And so I went through some private equity situations and helped organizations. And so for me, it's always going to the leader, figuring out, all right, what is it that we're trying to accomplish? Or, is everybody aligned around that? And how do we get a group of people to feel good about this and to give them the resources that they need? So that's always been my passion. That's kind of how I got in there. And that is the real message that I have carried throughout my life.
I love that. And thank you for actually bringing everyone back to where we met. And what she is so graceful. What she didn't tell you is that Susanna and I cried for Kinga because I messed up. When you're so excited and getting this book for a whole month, right? And Susanna and I were working, I don't know, until 1 in the morning for some reason. When we pushed the final copy for the ebook, I had so many troubles with that one with Amazon because when I pushed it, they pushed back and they never put it in for Friday. It was meant for Friday. Somewhere along the line, when I pushed the button, Kinga's chapter was missing. And Kinga's like, yeah, so I don't think I see my chapter in this ebook. And my heart breaks. And Susanna's calling me so early, 6 a.m. She never calls me at 6 a.m. She's like, oh my God, guess what we did? I'm like, what? We forgot Kinga's chapter. And I said, it's not a we, sister. It's a me. I'm the one who pushed the button. That's my fault. Let me fix it. And then as soon as I fix it, let me call Kinga. So I fixed it and I called Kinga before she could call me. I said, hey, sister, I am so sorry that I did this. It is my fault. It is not your fault, none whatsoever. Here's the thing, I already know Kinga's background that when you're so good at what you do, sometimes jealousy from other people is coming in. And I'm really convinced that jealousy is really part of our psyche and it's part of life. right? But I think when people are already have a lot going on for themselves and they are secure in their mental capacity, that it's not that I can't do it, it's just that I can do it differently. When you think about that, not necessarily better, right? When you think about comparing yourself, like, I can do that better, I can do this better. I used to be like that. But now I realize it's not about doing it better, it's about doing it differently. Just
Mhm.
like learning styles, right? There's different ways to learn. And I used to be very rigid, by the way, in my, if you can do it this way, A, B, C, and D, instead of A through G to H, you're doing it wrong. It's not. I realize that people really, the more I go into psychology, the more I go into neurolinguistics, I'm trying to get an NLP practitioner. I'm a cognitive behavior therapy practitioner already. I got that certifications. Now I'm trying to get to neurolinguistics, programming
Love it.
certifications, and also getting another master's for psychology. um, I understand better on my behavior, right? So once I get dig deeper on me, and I'm like, okay, well, I can't communicate that way. I need to be proactive. But am I going to be perfect? Hell no, that's not possible. But what I can do is something that I can control. And Kinga, thank you for your grace and introduction. For where we met, and I fixed it. And you're like, it's okay, why? And I'm like, no, it's not, because I don't want you to feel invisible. I know in the past that people already do that to you, and I'm not about to do that to you,
I
right?
didn't, yeah. Yeah, you didn't, and I knew that. I knew that wasn't your intention. And I think that's where trust, we talk a lot about the trust economy. And I think that when you build this relationship with someone, and it was so clear to me the way that you had already led everybody through this process, that you cared so much more about our success and getting us through this process. Like, I keep doing this motion because in my brain, I'm such a physical, like, I picture things, and I literally picture you grabbing our hands and just pulling us through. Because so often we're talking about coaches, advisors, this, that, right? And so many of us just feel stuck in ways. And that's how I see you when it was like, hey, we're all kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't done this. And CJ's like, let me take your hand and it's okay. Let me just pull you right through. And when you have 26 other people, or there's 27 of us in this book, and if you think about translating that now to corporate environments, people are there, we're looking around going, there's hundreds of people, and wait, we have a new direction. We have the world is changing for people so rapidly, and they don't really understand because they're getting little glimpses over here. They kind of have their own lives. They're catching pieces. Their learning style is so different that to have somebody that goes, hey, don't worry, I got your back. I'm going to grab your hand when it comes down to it, and I'm going to make sure you're okay. Right? We're going to get through this together. And so you really have to give somebody your trust. You really have to look at your leader and go, okay, like, I'm probably going to miss some things, but I trust that person is going to either really take my hand, or that if they make mistakes too, and I have to give them grace, because I'm going to need grace too, and I'm going to have to give them grace. And if I do, then we're going to get through this together, and that we're going to have each other's backs. And I think that so often, if we're not all aware of that, if we're not all looking out for that, then we quickly will start breaking that trust cycle. And it's a cycle, right? We, just like how you kind of with your intro, like, here we are, we want to be engaged. The engagement is not one-sided, you know?
Sorry, I was like coughing. I had to mute myself.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to put you on the spot as soon as you
Yeah,
start.
it's funny when you're like, physical. That's me. I'm kinesthetic learner. I'm a visual learner and I'm a kinesthetic learner. So I learn through movements as well. And I'm married to an Italian, so hand gestures is like
Oh
fly.
man, I'm always.
I'm Filipinos. My hands are. I think here's the thing with business leaders, and it has changed. And I think that social media is bad and good, right? Bad because sometimes we get stuck on numbers and we basically are there. Well, I had a conversation yesterday with someone saying, hey, so and so only has this much followers or this much engagement, but she makes almost $100,000 in the last 6 months. So numbers, it matters, but I think relationship within
Mhm.
that number. So I always think about the day when I did my research where I have this many people saying this, right, for my dissertation, but that's quantifiable, something that's number, because our heads actually will focus more on the number side, but then we can't translate that numbers to something else. And that's why you need both qualitative and quantitative research. And I think as business owners, if you have 100 people and three of your employees out of that 100 people are complaining, you think, what's the point of changing? It's only three people, right?
Mhm.
But what you
Mhm.
don't understand is that people and emotions are together. So if
Mhm.
these three people are the key people
Oh yeah.
who's loved by that 100 people, it's like cancer, right? It's gonna be
Absolutely.
like these three people are gonna say, "Oh my God, Kinga and CJ, my God, they suck at their leadership. This is what's happening." Okay, now three went to four. Now multiply that. Three people talk to 10 people. In a
Mhm.
week, you already have a disgruntled organization
Yeah.
that doesn't want to deal with you anymore as a leader, and it's not even reality because you know what? It was just gossip. But
Yeah.
gossip, that perception becomes their reality. This is
Yes.
what I think organization falls fault, right? So how do
Yeah.
you actually say to business leaders like, hey, now that we're scaling, now that you're growing, you're going to inject new people in this. This is a
Mhm.
new culture for them because they work from a different organization. How do you help business leaders saying, can I help you make sure that while you're scaling, that
Mhm.
your leadership is actually also scaling,
Yeah.
not stagnant?
That is so critical. I can't even like you were hitting my heart, girl, woman. So to me, this is your heartbeat, right? If you think about this real sustainability, right? This is I again my you're calling it kinesthetic learning. This is where I love that your education and your wise words, because I kind of just am like I'm basing it off of my experience and kind of what came naturally to me. And then I go research it. And then you're like, hey, this is what I'm teaching. So it helps me quickly access that toolbox. So for me, I'm visualizing that I just would start this drum beating when I'd go into an organization and I'd say, okay, I'd start talking to people. I'd be like, wow, you're really not aligned, in terms of your philosophies. When I really kind of press, at first the words sound like they match. But when I start pressing on, well, what do you do in this situation? And, when I observe a meeting and I see kind of their reaction to how if somebody pitches an idea, do the leaders kind of respond in the same way? And if you start seeing this dissension, you go, actually, you're not as aligned in your value systems as you say that you are. Right. And so you're the way that they behave, and what I call is their compass, the way they make decisions, the way that they kind of evaluate things does show up differently. And so what I ask leaders to do is to start identifying their compass and their kind of the behaviors, their norms, and to say, what is it of who we are, and make that your heartbeat. Make that your this is who we are, and the person honestly who is the business owner decides, like, this is genuinely, like, to the core my belief system, and I need to be genuine and honest with people about that, and be kind of standing with conviction. People are looking now for people with conviction, and I think that that is a shift in culture that is happening kind of worldwide right now, where we're seeing, like, hey, I want someone to take a stand on something. What do you believe in? And so just even who you are and what you stand for. And so if you have that as your heartbeat, and then you start beating it and you start saying, okay, hey, everybody, I believe in community. I believe in taking care of one another. Let's start with a simple idea like that, right? And just something, I believe that when people come to our conversations, we're going to give them a voice, and we're just going to start beating this drum. And then you start having meetings, and at your company meetings you start that, and then at your team leadership meetings you start talking about it, and every week you say, okay, what did everybody do to go out to their teams and talk about this? And then you just start kind of taking these, I call them governances, but in whether it's, we have different people use all kinds of different tools for communication. I don't like to dictate what that looks like, but you start single sourcing where your governances are held, where your policies are held, all those kinds of things, and you say, but this is who we are, and we're always going to bring it back to this. And so you just keep kind of, and then I'm not saying you can't ever change, right? That's the beautiful thing about being adaptable. But you have this kind of, you consider it literally a heart that's just, and it's my cheesy way, but it's like this heart that just keeps kind of like, I see the little heart waves, right? And like, okay, if we need to, we at least bring everybody back into it and have that conversation. And if we trust each other, if we want to have that conversation, we do it, and we open those doors to bring it back to the heart of who we are, because everybody's welcome to have that conversation.
I love that. I can remember the open door policy that my manager actually introduced me to. But then when you do go talk to them, it's not really an open door policy. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Do you need anything right now? I'm kind of busy. That's not an open door policy.
No.
So I think business leaders have to be cognizant on what they're doing. I think often too, when you work for an organization for so long, I think every single person needs to have like a workshop and bringing everyone to the basic, meaning what is the core of why we're here? What is the organization's vision and strategy, right? Because
Yeah.
how many times you work for an organization where you kind of just went there, but you kind of agreed to their vision. It's like, okay, somewhat aligned. And then you just move on, right? Because you don't want to miss,
Yeah. Everybody.
right? 8 years later,
Everybody.
like, what's your
Yeah.
vision and strategy for your organization? Huh? I just work
Yeah.
in this department. So I
Yeah.
think today organizations definitely need to have talked about their people because they are part of that organization, whether they own stocks or not. You are part of this organization. Your reputation actually lies within where you work, right? Just like what school do you go to, who did you align with, like all of these things, right? It's a check mark. But vision and strategy for organization, talking to their employees of, hey, what are some of the goals that we're doing here, and how can you as an individual, as a department, can help with this? When people see that their organization is talking to them like you are part of the business rather than a cog, I think
Yeah.
there's a difference in connecting with each and every single employee, especially if you're in a global space. What are your thoughts on that?
Huge topic. I mean, this I could go on and on about, because I can't tell you how many company meetings I have sat through. I wrote this on somebody's post and I wasn't sure. This was a couple weeks ago. And this was somebody who's like pretty formal set feeling or whatever, where they were talking about company meetings and the effectiveness, and everybody's talking about what financial numbers should be discussed and this and that. And I didn't know how it was going to be taken, and it was actually taken really well. But I had a CEO. I've had many CEOs in my life experience, and one that was like constantly talking about EBITDA and all these important numbers, right? And it's important that you have education around what that means. And that, I think, is more of a individual, have that, make sure that your leadership team is well versed, and make sure that they understand and they can have those conversations and training so that people within their organizations. But the company meeting, if you're just to have somebody dry that's up there as a CEO that's like, and here's our numbers and these financial and blah blah blah. And so in the comment I said something like, if you're talking about ibbity bubbity bubbity boo or something, then no one knows what to do, because that's how it feels when you're just like looking at these numbers. You're like, how does this translate to me? And I've been through so many companies that were going public, that we were trying to get sold. We were trying to do all this stuff. And there's some stuff you cannot talk about. I get that. But there was so often that we were actually going through different business growth stages. And that I don't feel that the C-suite was really that upfront with the rest of the company around that. And I think that they could have been more transparent. They just felt like they were shielding the rest of the company for some reason. And I don't think that was helpful, because then people didn't really understand like the shifts in the behavior of the leadership team. And I think that that causes distrust, right? If you're just seeing like, why are all the managers moving around? Why are we having all these department changes all the time? That's all. They lose trust in the leadership team. They're like, we're changing departments every other day. And like they do. I remember sitting in a department meeting one time, and we just kept rotating out like leaders, and they were like, when is it going to stop? And my boss at the time said, you know what, it's not going to stop, and as a matter of fact, I should go ahead and schedule the next one. And everyone's like, what? And so they weren't explaining really though why. And it was because we were trying to go public or whatever. It's like these things that are happening. And so I just think that that transparency, that not everybody has a business background. I certainly didn't at that time. I didn't understand. And so it just feels very like off-putting when you're the one who is naive and going through it. And we have to look at that from their perspective. Like you now have stakeholders as a CEO or as a leader. You have a lot of stakeholders, and they're looking to you for answers.
Yeah, it's the instability, that the unknown, right? People, when it's unknown, it's really uncomfortable, right? But
Mhm.
I tend to, actually, my daughter, my youngest, tells me this. She's so smart. I'm telling you, like, I feel stupid sometimes next to her. I'm like, how are you so smart? I did good in this earth. Like, I literally tell her that. She's like, Mom, you know how you worry about things and things and things and things and all the time and things, and like you're worried about this and that. But then at the end, you always get what you want anyway from the very start. It just always work out. She goes, why don't you just believe and trust that you are doing everything you can to get the outcome that you need, and stop worrying about the in between? Dude, my 16-year-old told me this. And I was like, what do you mean? And so I wanted to just see if she knows what she's talking about. And she went deeper on me and said, well, how about this and a bit? And then she gave me examples after examples. And I realized, A, wow, my kid is smart. I
For
did
you.
good, right? And I'm like, B, kids are 2.0 of us. It's kind of scary to think about that. I'm like, oh, Jesus, I feel bad for her husband because if she's anything like me, oh my gosh, Plus her dad, oh my gosh, it's an explosion. But if you really think about it, just on your own personal thing, right? You worried about a lot of things in your life, but at the end, didn't it work out for you? Yes, of
Yeah.
course, there was heartache, there was crying moment, there was
Oh, yeah.
disbelief, right?
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
depression, anxiety, all of that. But at the end,
Yeah.
it did work out for you, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
yeah, if you think about it at its simplest form, I'm like, so how do we do this to actually embed this in the culture of our organization? So, my next question to you is, how do you attract and retain top talent in your organization during the periods of rapid growth?
How do you remain tactile? Like,
No,
how do
how
you?
do you attract and retain top talent, right? Because you already have skilled employees that you're like, if I lose this person, I'm going to have to hire three people to replace this person.
Mhm.
How do you keep them retained during your rapid growth while you're scaling?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think just like any human being, we all want to feel valued and seen, right? And I think that honestly, we have to view everybody as this community. We all have these basic needs. So I love, and I think you've talked about this plenty, where we have these Maslow hierarchy. We have different senses of awareness and hierarchies of needs, right? And if we have some basic needs met, we're going to be okay. So there is a certain level of, hey, I need to make sure that for what I'm worth, I am valued. I have my basic needs met. I get to have some autonomy. I am empowered to make, decision. People want freedom today, and they deserve it. especially when they've given you their trust. They deserve to be trusted back. So for top talent, the way that I view it is that I wanted to be trusted with decisions, right? It's like I've already proven myself and whatever. And also to you want to make sure that you don't create, I call them single points of failure. So if you have somebody who is an absolute expert and they're the only person that can do something, you actually want to encourage them to share that, right? You want to say, hey, like, I want you now to, because you can't just rely on one person, because if that person goes away, you're kind of out of luck, right? And so you want to encourage those people to share their knowledge and also to celebrate that, to show them your appreciation for their top talent. So they have to feel celebrated. And I think that we don't celebrate people that are top talent, and then we're not discovering that there is top talent in pretty much everyone. And so, how we define top talent, I think, needs to also potentially change. I think that you are a master at finding top talent, 50 inspirational, right? Who else goes out there and seeks value in others? That is how we find top talent. Like, if we don't actually actively go and look for it, we're not going to necessarily open our eyes to possibilities. And to me, that is what's going to be the competitive advantage. Did I lose you? Am I
No,
talking to myself?
no.
Okay.
I'm actually trying to like, there's a couple of things I wanted to address. I want to go back to Maslow's hierarchy because a lot of people might not know it, right? But literally, this man, amazing man, psychological theory. He's a psychologist back in the 1943. I studied him so much because I use him on my dissertation. But literally, he's looking at the pyramid of 5 levels of human needs. So if anything that you get from this conversation is get curious, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs are basically physiological needs. You need air, that's number one basic fundamentals. You need food, you need shelter, like all of those things, clothing, sleep, sleep. Safety needs, right? Like basically you have your health and well-being and protection against whatever. And then the third one is super important for organization, which is love and belongingness. It doesn't have to be relationship wise, like, oh, we're, lovers or whatever. Love for your people, love for trying to make sure that their belongingness is actually at the 5 and above level, right? And esteem needs is the fourth one, which is giving them achievement, giving them rewards when they deserve it. Calling out people when they're doing. You do that. We do that in audio rooms. Calling out people in the
Yeah.
VIP lounge. Calling out people in our community. Self actualization is the last stop for Maslow's hierarchy, and literally, it's all about personal growth and self improvement. And I feel like once you hit that 40 mark, that's when you started doing self actualization, right? Because some of us are doing it early. Some of us really do not hit that pivotal moment of your life to say, what are my potential? And I
Yep.
love that you said, 50 inspirational. Here's what I believe: when you seek negativity, you will find a laundry list of them. Okay. But if you seek positivity in your life, you will also find a laundry list of them. So think about
Mhm.
A and B. If you seek negativity and all you focus is negativity, because by the way, our brain is so focused on negativity
Mhm.
that we basically have all of that emotions and anger and whatever else, and that you will find that there's plenty of people who are negative. There's plenty of people who voice their opinion when they're not even asked about you, to make you put down your energy, put down whatever. But you're not seeking that. In your heart, you're seeking positive people. In your heart, you're seeking positivity in that organization. And I want to talk about single points of failure because you need redundancy. And that's definitely the cyber part, right? The IT part. You need double double. So how I do it with my team is cross functional, right? I will do training specifically to extrapolate some of the knowledge that this person have. It's never going to be the same capacity, but at least I won't fail at a 0%. right? Because if I extrapolate at least 20-30%, I can run with it and while I'm doing some training. But if I don't do anything at all, it's at zero. So here's my thing with scaling within rapid growth. You need to make sure that the employees that you have don't just look at the resume. When you're actually on LinkedIn, don't just look at the about. And most people actually don't look at, because the first thing they DM me is, what do you do? I'm like, are you serious? Did you even look at my tagline or my experience? Yeah, like, it's disheartening to me when you ask me that question, because before you talk to me, you should be having a curiosity. So when I get that DM, I usually say, hey, out of curiosity, why are you connecting with me? Because
Mhm.
what I'm trying to ask you is, why did you connect with me if you didn't read my about profile? Right? So then I say, okay, from there, what is your passion? Right? And I want to better understand where they're getting at, because I think honestly, everybody always wants something from somebody, right? Always. We all do it. But the way you go about on communicating those, the same thing for business leaders. Everybody wants you to change. Change is hard, okay? But if you actually train yourself to accept that change is something that's inevitable, just like taxes, they will extract it even if you're dead, actually. They did that with my aunt. It doesn't, change is something that's coming. You might as well embrace it, right? You
Yeah.
might as well embrace it. But as a business leader, you need to make sure, and you said this, when you make those changes, make sure that if you are talking to your people, especially the ones who are not business savvy, that you're talking and speaking to the language. Don't complicate it. Just explain these changes are happening because we're doing growth. And the reason that we're doing growth is because we want to scale this organization to this level. Don't be throwing out numbers they don't care about. They're going to
Yeah.
care, like, am I going to get paid, Kinga? Like,
Yep.
that's all, right? So speak to that language, not to your language, but
Yeah.
think about everything that you're doing is actually for the community, whether it's a business community or, personal branding community, whatever it is, it's a community, right? So my next question actually is, how do you make sure that when you communicate with people as much as possible on these changes and rapid growth and scaling, to make sure that they do get what you're trying to say? What are some of the tips and strategies that you would do?
Yeah. Well, I think that building a coaching culture is very important for business leaders today. I think that, especially when you're scaling, the mindset that I encourage leaders to have is that you kind of to create that like drum beating, right? So that way you don't feel so emotionally tied to every person, because everybody wants the freedom to come and go, and we should allow that. We should give people grace. We should say, you know what, right now you are part of my life, and thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate this moment that we have together while our business goals align. And people want the freedom that possibly they might change their business mind. They might have a partner that moves them somewhere else, and they totally, their goals change. And we don't want to be making people feel trapped, right? Nobody wants to feel trapped. And so if we kind of get ourselves into that mindset, then we can say, all right, right now we're in a partnership, and I'm going to do the best I can to honor this partnership in this moment. And so if I am okay with that, and I encourage you to be happy, and I'm not going to get furious with you if you decide something's different, better for you later, and that's okay, then we can kind of let go of these emotional ties, right? To like, no, you owe this to me. We don't want to feel that way with people. We want people to feel like we're just here partnering. So you get your leadership team to partner with you. I keep drawing my hearts. You want your leadership team to partner with you on this. We're building a coaching culture. We are building something that's a drum that's resonating, so that we can, because that as a business leader is important to me. So help me build a coaching culture where we start building a drum, and that we start telling people that, hey, what's important to us, at least, is that we communicate consistently, we communicate openly and honestly, we are transparent around certain things. This is the level of transparency that I want, and that we embrace these things. And so if you can get a group of people, then you can have shifts in people coming in and out. And it's okay because the next person coming in will just embrace the drum. They just they understand what's happening, right? And so you can become more adaptable as a leadership team. And then also as employees come in, they're like, oh, all right, this is a well-oiled machine. Like, I got it, right? It's all just kind of humming along. And so this is how, to me, you kind of scale and get things that are just a nice rhythmic understanding. And then you'll notice that even the employees are like, hey, come on board. Yep, this is how we do things over here, and our team is a little bit different. We kind of, you still give enough autonomy that people feel empowered to do things a little differently. Oh, on our team, we this is, so you really kind of say, if there are non-negotiables in a business, like government programs, it's not always, that doesn't necessarily work if they have like very strict guidelines that they have to follow. So this type of methodology works best in like complex, highly changing systems. So communities or software marketing agencies, things like that, where there's just, tons of movement. But if you kind of go, all right, in this pocket over here, it's like, these are the non-negotiables we have to do, but otherwise you have free reign. We just need these pieces of information, right? And you kind of extract what you absolutely need, and the rest of it, trust your people.
Trust. Trust is a big deal, right? I
Yes.
Here's another thing that I've realized too as a business leader. The people that are underperforming, it's not that they're not capable. It's because they didn't see the value to perform. That's how I see it.
Mm,
And it's hard sometimes to extrapolate the point of lotus of control for them, because some people stay in the victimhood. My life has always been this, it's always been trauma, this is da da da, and they stay in that trauma state. I think what we need to realize is that not one person didn't go to trauma. Everybody has trauma. Just do it
mhm.
differently. What we also need to, I think for me, I realize that people are complicated, because not because they're complicated period, it's because they complicate things. And this is when I think, okay, I am not a robot, I have emotions, okay? Like, but when you have certain expectations that you put out there at the very beginning, I had this conversation with my class because I do business leadership lecture, is that as a business leader, just like any relationship, like, let me ask you something. When you go to dinner and you have like a whole bunch of friends that goes to dinner, and you're like, hey, Kinga, can you go with me? Like, for example, in our book signing, so all six of us goes to dinner, right? And that was the conversation. When we go to dinner, there's 12 more people that came in.
Mhm.
So our dinner is, instead of divided by 6, is now divided by 12. We don't know these people because one of the member of our group maybe invited them, right?
Mhm.
And your meal is about, oh, I don't know, $50, but the bill is $2,000, and the goal was divided by 12. Why should I pay $150 or whatever to people I don't even know, that I didn't invite?
Right.
Right? So think about that for a moment. And where did it go wrong? Where it went wrong is that there was no conversation of how the
Yep.
bill was supposed to split up in the very beginning. So
Yep.
my point is, as a business leader, you need, even in relationship, what you
Yep.
tolerate in the middle, you can't change the game in the middle of the game, right?
Yep.
Basketball, oh, that's this. No, no, no. I think today, right now, this is this. That's not
Right.
how it works in the business, right? Like, you
Yeah.
have to have that foundational expectations, and how to rules of engagement is very
Yeah.
important in
Yeah.
anything that you do.
Yeah.
So that's when people says, people just trampled me. I always ask them, do you have rules of engagement for people?
Yep. Yep.
Right? It's
Yep.
important for business, it's important for personal branding, it's important for life, right?
Yes.
So that's the
Yes.
reason why I'm like, the way you scale is having that foundation, saying these are
Absolutely.
the rules of engagement. And that's literally what you're saying.
Yes.
When people come in and out of your life, don't be so dependent on it, because the rules of engagement is you already know the game. People are going to come in and out. That's organization. That's community. People are going to come in and out of your community, your business, and that's how it works. But if you're not attached to that one people and not one person, the redundancy is there because it's already solid foundation. We already told you how to do this business this way, right? So I think that's super important that you mentioned that, because I like rules of engagement at the very beginning with my friendship. I'm like, I don't do disrespect. I don't do the jokes like, oh, because my daughter does this where she would offend me, but then when she knows that I get offended, she's like, Mom, it's a joke. You can't take a joke. I'm like, that's not how I rule. Okay.
Mm-mm.
That's not how I do things. It's like, you can't just change the rule of engagement because someone got offended. You know it's offensive. Why do it?
Right.
Right? So having that foundation of like, what is my non-negotiables? Just like what you said. What's my non-negotiables? I'm gonna tell you in this friendship. Respect is everything. Loyalty
Mhm.
is everything. Hard work is everything. And sharing and engaging is everything in my community. That's rules of engagement. So at least whoever comes in and out, oh, that's non-negotiable for CJ. Let's just go ahead and do that. And I'm not saying don't talk negative because that's how we learn, but I'm saying
Right.
don't stay in the negative state, right? So,
Yeah.
sister, oh my God, I love this conversation. We do have
Yeah.
to end. I do want to actually ask you about your class that's coming up, or a
Yeah.
workshop that you're doing on the 24th. Tell us, where can we find those information?
Yeah, so putting together an overview on Wednesday, and I'll plan on doing one more before I do a launch of a new workshop series. I'm really excited about in August. I do have a trip planned to visit my dad, so I will take a little mini vacation in between. So that's why there's a little pause there. But August 24th, I'm sorry, July 24th, and I believe the next one will be August 7th. So I'll do two little webinar registrations. I think I'll post about it this weekend. And that'll do an overview of the launch for the course series. And so it'll cover things like the conflict resolution. I have tips on exactly what you were just talking about, not just the rules of engagement, but also how you can document some of the not just the norms, but also throughout a process of working through some problem solving, and then how to address that criterion decision making and make it actionable and kind of save it for the right conversation, that kind of stuff. I got some great tips there. So I'm excited to cover some of that kind of material. And so look forward to that. I'll get that out there this weekend. Look for a post. Thank you so much for your support. I'm really excited about like some of the great stuff that we're going to be able to combine.
And collaborate, right? Because we
Yeah.
do collaboration over competition. That's how we roll.
Oh,
Because even if we're doing the same thing, we're not doing it the same way, right? That's the thing. Because each person has different skills, and you have mad skills, sister, to help business leaders out there. And I'm so excited for it. Is this a free workshop, by the way?
yes. Yeah. The courses will not be, but the
Right.
workshop will be. Yeah. Hmm.
Awesome.
And I
Awesome.
wouldn't have gotten through the past year without you and your support. So, it is about community. And, we do talk about a lot that you go through things, and it is difficult. It is. And so we need people to lift us up, and you represent that. It
Yes.
is. It,
We're
it,
all
it, it
about
really is. So,
community and lifting everybody up, because we focus on what's positive that's happening rather than what's negative. What's really funny? Most negative people literally is like one or two, and somehow you ruin everything just because of those one or two people, right? But they're living rent free in your head. I'm like, get out of here, you're done. Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, it's not rent free anymore. Well, thank you so much for today, Kinga, sister, and hope to see you again in this TV. Bye, everybody.
bye. Thank you.
See ya, see ya, see ya.